Malcolm Jamal Warner, dead at the age of 54 on a drowning accident while he was vacationing with his family.
I am tired of running for shade. And aren't you tired of being hustled and played? And aren't we all tired of crying about how hard it is to be black in America, even if it looks like we've got it made?
Malcolm Jamal Warner, the man we all knew as Theo Huxtable, the charming, quirky son on the Cosby Show, is gone. But the message he left behind was not just a goodbye. It was a message to wake us up. He left us with words that still echo. If you can't find a reason to smile, be the reason for someone else to smile. And now, in the wake of his passing, people are starting to ask some hard questions. Why does it always feel like when someone speaks out, they end up silenced? Why does it seem like every time someone tries to shake the system fights back? We're left here, with the weight of grief stretching across our faces. With scars of pain embedded so deeply into us, it feels like our black pride has been twisted with self-hate. Was Malcolm's death just another tragic moment in a long list of losses? Or is there something bigger at play here? Something that's hard to ignore. Let's dive into it. At just 54 years old, Malcolm Jamal Warner's death has stunned us all. He drowned while vacationing in Costa Rica, with his family at least. That's what the authorities say. They report he was swept away by strong currents while swimming at Clay's Beach in Lyman, and despite efforts from people on the shore, by the time first responders arrived, it was too late. They found him without vital signs, and that was it. But something about this story doesn't sit right. The timing, the details, and the message he left behind. Just days before his death, it all feels too eerie to ignore. You see, Warner wasn't just vacationing. He wasn't just taking a break. He was on a mission to speak the truth. 2 days before he died, he released the final episode of his podcast, Not All Hood. It wasn't a casual conversation. No, it was a raw, emotional, urgent message. In that episode, he reflected on a conversation he had with spoken word artist Tamika Georgia Harper, who challenged the title of his podcast. When he told her it was called Not All Hood, she immediately responded, "Ain't nothing wrong with the hood." That one line made Warner stop and think. It sent him spiraling into a deeper reflection about how the media has always portrayed black culture, focusing on a narrow, one-dimensional version of the hood, while ignoring the richness, the power, and the depth that lies beneath. He wasn't distancing himself from the hood. He was calling out the system that profits off misunderstanding it, of using it to create a stereotype. In his own words, he said, "The hood side. Historically, that's what has always created American culture." That statement isn't just a cultural observation, it's a truth about appropriation, invisibility, and stolen legacies. And it's a truth that Hollywood has spent decades trying to bury. But Malcolm wasn't backing down. He also got personal, about his own growth, about how his views on terms like black excellence had evolved. He used to be skeptical, seeing it as just a byproduct of fame and wealth. But after learning about how black soldiers had been erased from Arlington National Cemetery's records, he came to a powerful realization: surviving is excellence. Just existing, just making it through, is black excellence. Not the awards, not the fame, just surviving. That line hit hard. And now, knowing that just 48 hours after releasing that episode, he was gone, it feels even heavier. For many of us, Malcolm Jamal Warner will always be remembered as Theo Huxtable, the lovable son who dealt with real struggles like dyslexia, but always had the steady support of his parents. He was the guy we grew up watching, a presence in our homes every week. And for years, that image stuck with him. But here's the thing: who is the real Malcolm Jamal Warner behind the character we all knew and loved? What about the man who quietly faced personal tragedy, who dealt with the heavy weight of being part of a show that's now tainted by scandal? What about the man who didn't let those things break him, but instead used them to build strength and grow into a respected artist? Looking back at his life, it's clear that Malcolm Jamal Warner wasn't just some child star. He was someone who used his struggles to evolve, to find a deeper purpose, and to stay true to himself. But there was one struggle that weighed heavier than all the rest: the Bill Cosby scandal. This wasn't a controversy that Warner caused, but one he got pulled into simply because of his connection to Cosby, and it's that connection that makes his response to the scandal so complicated. Cosby wasn't just a co-worker to Warner. He was a mentor, a father figure. Cosby gave Warner his big break, casting him as Theo in a nationwide search. On set, Cosby led by example. He taught Warner how to stay grounded, how to avoid falling into the trap of fame. Cosby even gave him creative advice, like steering clear of trendy slang, to make the show timeless. So when the allegations against Cosby started to surface, it was devastating for Warner. His feelings weren't just about the accusations. They were about the man he had admired for so long. He said, "It's just as painful to hear any woman talk about sexual assault, whether true or not, as it is to watch my friend and mentor go through this." Warner wasn't defending Cosby, but he also wasn't willing to turn his back on him. He said, "I can't defend him, but I won't throw him under the bus either." He understood the importance of respecting the victims, but he also wanted to have a more thoughtful conversation about the situation. The hardest part for Warner wasn't just the accusations against Cosby. It was the damage done to the legacy of The Cosby Show. For Warner, that show was a cultural milestone, a show that gave America a different, more positive view of black families. So when the show was pulled from syndication, it hurt him deeply. It wasn't just a job for him, it was something much bigger. And now, in the wake of his passing, we're left with so many questions. Why wasn't anyone listening to Malcolm when he tried to speak out? Why did it feel like his voice was drowned out? His message about black culture, survival, and excellence is one we can't ignore. And maybe, just maybe, his passing was a part of a bigger pattern, one that we can no longer afford to turn a blind eye to. Malcolm Jamal Warner's story wasn't just one of stardom and fame, it was about something deeper. It was about being more than the character people knew him as. For years, people watched him as Theo Huxtable, the lovable, relatable son on The Cosby Show, a role that became an iconic part of TV history. But behind the scenes, Warner was quietly reflecting, growing, and reimagining what his life could be beyond the show. When The Cosby Show was pulled from syndication, it didn't just sting, it was personal. The show had been more than a job to him. It was a cultural milestone, a vision of black families living with dignity, respect, and love. Warner once said, "We've always had The Cosby Show to hold up against that, and the fact that we no longer have that, that's what saddens me the most." He was heartbroken, but not just because of the show's erasure from TV screens. No, it was deeper than that. It was about the double standard. Directors like Woody Allen and Roman Polanski still had their work celebrated, while the show that gave millions of young black viewers hope was erased. For Warner, it wasn't just about what was lost, but also about the financial toll it took. "It's literally taking money out of my pocket," he admitted. But it wasn't just about money. It was about the erasure of a legacy, of a narrative he knew to be true and important. And yet, amid the grief and frustration, a shift happened. A conversation with Kashia Knight Pulliam, who played his TV sister Rudy, changed his perspective. She reminded him of something that had been so easy to forget in the midst of the scandal. The Cosby Show had inspired an entire generation to aim higher, to dream bigger, to go to college. It had made a difference in real lives, and that impact couldn't be erased. That realization shifted everything for Warner. Instead of focusing on what was taken from him, he began to see the power in what had already been given to the world. And that's the mark of who he truly was, someone who, even in the face of deep personal pain, chose to see the good. He separated the legacy of the show from the mistakes of the man behind it. It wasn't just about The Cosby Show anymore. It was about the impact it had on the lives of people who watched it. Warner's story isn't just about surviving Hollywood, it's about transcending it. He didn't fall into the traps so many child stars did. While many of his peers struggled with addiction or legal troubles, Warner stayed grounded. His mother, Pamela, played a big part in that. She helped him navigate the dangers of fame with discipline and wisdom. He made a conscious choice to separate himself from the shadow of Theo, refusing to be defined by the role that made him famous. It wasn't an easy road, but it was a necessary one. His career after The Cosby Show was anything but predictable. He chose to direct, to become a musician, and even won a Grammy for Best Traditional R&B Performance. He didn't settle for safe roles. He ventured into dramatic parts, proving that he wasn't just a child actor. He was an artist. What stands out about Warner, though, isn't just his career or his achievements. It's the absence of scandal in his life. He didn't just survive fame, he studied the mistakes of others and built a life designed to avoid them. From a young age, he was promoting positive messages. In 1988, he wrote Theo and Me, Growing Up Okay, advising young fans to stay away from drugs and make smart choices. He wasn't trying to cash in on his fame. He was genuinely trying to make a difference. As he grew, so did his work. His Grammy-nominated spoken word album, Hiding in Plain View, and his short film You Can't Hear Me addressed complex issues like mass incarceration, racism, and deportation issues that weren't just topical. They were personal. Warner's work became a platform for social change, rooted in a deep awareness of his identity and the world around him. It was clear that his rise wasn't by accident. He had a purpose, and he stuck to it. But even with all his personal growth, life wasn't without its tragedies. One of the most heartbreaking came when Michelle Thomas, his former Cosby Show co-star, passed away from cancer at just 30 years old. Their romantic relationship may have ended years before, but their bond remained. Warner was there by her side. When she passed, it was a loss that quietly shaped the way he viewed life and love. Later, his breakup with actress Regina King was played out under the harsh glare of the public eye. The media fed off the drama, but Warner handled it with the same grace he'd handled personal heartbreak before. It was a lesson in how to protect his peace and preserve his privacy. He learned, through both private and public loss, that love is fragile, and that it's not something to be put on display for the world to dissect. Warner's journey was never about chasing headlines or fame. He was about something deeper: truth, resilience, and growth. But now, looking back, it's impossible not to see a pattern. It seems like every time a black celebrity begins to speak their truth, to challenge the system, to reclaim the narrative, tragedy strikes. Warner wasn't just reflecting on the past, he was trying to reimagine the future. He used his platform to create a space for honest conversation about black identity. And just when he was gaining momentum, he was taken from us. Warner's death leaves behind a void, a space where his message could have continued to grow. He was redefining success, not by fame or wealth, but by survival. And just like that, he was gone. But his message remains. It's up to us to listen to it, to hear the truth he was trying to tell, and to make sure it doesn't disappear. Because the moment we stop listening is the moment we lose. Malcolm Jamal Warner deserved more than a headline, more than a passing mention in the media. He deserved to be remembered for the message he left behind, a message that challenged everything we thought we knew about fame, about black identity, and about survival. Let's not let that message fade. Let's carry it with us.